Welcome to According to Sam, folks. This is episode 226. Thank you for joining me today. I hope you had a great Independence Day yesterday. I am going to pick up where I left off in the last podcast, and we'll probably going to talk about January 6th, and I'm going to explain to you what I didn't get to in the last podcast about what Nancy Pelosi's motive was for allowing the riot to take place there on January 6th. And so we'll get back into that in this podcast. But I want to start with something else. But have you ever had a milk in your refrigerator that's gone a little bit over the expiration date? Maybe it's 2 or 3 days past the expiration date. And you take the carton of milk out and you smell it to see if it has an odor yet. And you don't have time to go to the grocery store and get a new container of milk. So you chance it. You put that milk that is a little bit over the expiration date. You pour it into your coffee, to lighten up your morning coffee. You take the chance. And if you've ever experienced that, then you understand what the Democratic Party is experiencing right now with Joe Biden. He's over his expiration date, and they're going to see if they can get this guy over the finish line. They're going to see if, despite him being past his expiration date, if they can push this guy on past the finish line. A lot of people are counting him out. A lot of people are saying that he's done. I don't necessarily believe that he's done. I mean, it doesn't matter if he's done or not, because the only other person that can get his war chest and be effective in November is Kamala Harris, who may be even a worse candidate than Joe Biden. It's a crazy predicament, and it's a very interesting time to be alive. So we're going to get back into talking about all of that a little bit in this podcast, but I want to start talking about where I left off in the last podcast, our system of government, our republic, not our democracy, our republic, and the way that our republic is set up. And I want to get back into that in this podcast. We were talking about the Electoral College in the last podcast, and I was explaining how on January 6th, they want you to believe that the only thing that was going on January 6th is the ceremonial practice of counting the electoral votes, easy peasy, Joe Biden is president. It's not what was going on there at all. You're not only there on January 6th to certify the electoral votes, you're also there to challenge any electoral votes if members of Congress want to challenge the electoral vote. This is what it means to be a republic and not a direct democracy. And direct democracy, like Chris Matthews says in the clip that I played in the last podcast, whoever gets the most electoral votes wins the presidency. No, that's not true. You have to get 270 electoral votes that are confirmed by both houses of Congress, by the bicameral legislature. This is not direct democracy. It's something totally different. So I want to get back into that in this podcast, and I want to start with a clip from Nikki Haley. So when Nikki Haley was campaigning in the primary, and this is another issue, we'll get more into this later into the podcast, but the GOP had more of a rigorous primary. You had, debates that the RNC held where they had people, even though Trump didn't show up to the debates, you had people like Nikki Haley and Chris Christie and all these candidates, taking Donald Trump to task. The Democratic Party didn't do that. The Democratic Party tried to avoid having a primary at all costs. People like Marianne Williamson, and even Robert Kennedy. Robert Kennedy first tried to run in the Democratic Party as a Democrat and challenge Joe Biden in the primary. The Democratic Party refused to allow that to happen. Republican Party did have a primary, even though Trump didn't show up to the debates, and Trump, won the primary fair and square. But Nikki Haley, as she was campaigning in that primary, she many times, I heard this woman as she campaigning saying what I'm getting ready to play in this clip, where she's saying that the Republican Party hasn't won the popular vote in so many years, and we need to win the popular vote. Take a listen to Nikki Haley.
Republicans have lost the last 7 out of 8 popular votes for president. That is nothing to be proud of. We should want to win the majority of Americans. So the first thing the party needs to understand is this is a story of addition, not chasing people away. We should be bringing in Hispanics. We should be bringing in Asians. We should be bringing in women.
This is her criticism of Donald Trump, that he doesn't have a big tent. We should be bringing in Hispanics. Trump's bringing in Hispanics. Trump's probably going to get more Hispanic votes than any Republican in a long time. He's going to probably get more black votes than any Republican president in 6 decades. So he does have a large tent, but that's not going to help him win the popular vote. And as Republicans, I don't even know why she's talking about the popular vote, because the popular vote is not our system. We do not care about the popular vote. It is not majority take all in this country. And quite frankly, Republicans are never, ever going to win the popular vote ever again. And it doesn't matter about having a big tent, Nikki Haley, and bringing in more Hispanics and which Trump is doing, bringing in more black voters, which Trump is doing, and bringing in more women. You're never going to win the popular vote, because here's a clip from Alan Lippman, Professor Alan Lippman, who we've talked about a lot on this podcast. He explains, Alan Lippman here in this clip, when he first started, forecasting elections and making predictions, he would predict the winner of the popular vote. But he says that after 2000, he stopped predicting, or he would predict the winner of the Electoral College. And he says that, or he would predict the winner of the popular vote before 2000. He says after 2000 that he started predicting the winner of the Electoral College. He doesn't focus on the popular vote at all anymore. And Alan Lippman explains why in this clip. Take a listen.
Professor, one asterisk. In the year 2000, you said Al Gore, and he did win the popular vote. And for this cycle now, you talk about Electoral College victory. Am I right?
Absolutely, because the dynamics have changed. The baseline is now that the Democrats automatically get 5 to 6 million extra votes in just 2 states, New York and California. Those votes count for 0 in the Electoral College. So the baseline is now the Democrats will win the popular vote in any close election. So I now only predict who's going to win, which I did in 2016.
Moving forward, this is what he's saying, that the dynamics have changed so much. What dynamics? What were the dynamics that changed that allow 2 states, to allow California and New York to make up so much of the Democratic vote that Republicans will never, ever win the popular vote again? What are the dynamics that changed in California? Well, let me explain a little bit about what Lippman is talking about here and why we are a republic and not a direct democracy. And going back, I showed you these articles in the last podcast. This is Gallup. 61% of Americans support abolishing the Electoral College. This abolishes America. And if you don't like the Electoral College, then you don't like America. Pew Research. Majority of Americans continue favor moving away from the Electoral College. So they've convinced everyone, the Democrats, that this is a democracy, that we need to be a direct democracy, and now they want to implement policies that move us closer and closer to direct democracy. They want to have states like California and New York deciding federal elections for everyone. And that is what the founders. That is what the Great Compromise sought to prevent. That is what they didn't want when they met in Philadelphia in 1787. They also want larger states, again, to have more senators. They want to get rid of the 2 states per senator, and they want to have the larger states to have more representation and more power. That's not the United States of America. That majority rules. So we don't care anything about the popular vote. But let me explain exactly what Lippman was talking about here and why he doesn't use the popular vote anymore, because he says the dynamics have changed as such. Here, let's listen to him say it again. The dynamics have changed.
Professor, one asterisk. In the year 2000, you said Al Gore, and he did win the popular vote. And for this cycle now, you talk about Electoral College victory. Am I right?
Absolutely, because the dynamics have changed. The baseline is now that the Democrats automatically get 5 to 6 million extra votes in just 2 states, New York and California.
5 to 6 million extra votes in just 2 states. So you want California and New York to control federal elections for the entire country because you get 5. Now let's look at 2016. Let's look at 2016 because everybody talks about, Donald Trump won in 2016, but he didn't win the popular vote. Hillary Clinton won the popular vote. So this is the popular vote right here. Let's look. So Donald Trump got 62,984,824 votes. Hillary Clinton got 65,853,514 votes. That's a difference. I already did the math for you. That's a difference of 2,868,686 votes. So just under 3 million votes is what separated them in the popular vote. Okay, so let's look at California. Let's look at California here. All right, California. All right, let me move this over for you so you can see. All right, California. Hillary Clinton got 8 million votes, 753,788. 8,700,000 is what Hillary Clinton got in California. Look at what Donald Trump got. 4 million. 4,400,000. So she got almost double what the popular vote was nationally. That divided them. What I'm trying to say basically is that her entire popular vote came from one state, the state of California. Now, I live in the state of California, people. I've watched this go on. I've been here for 20 years. And when I first moved here, the governor in California was Gray Davis. And then they did the recall on Gray Davis, and then Arnold Schwarzenegger becomes president. It becomes the governor after that as a Republican. So he's a Republican. Gray Davis was a Republican, and then Jerry Brown comes back, and Jerry Brown, Jesuit Jerry Brown, who was governor before, he becomes governor, and Gavin Newsom is his lieutenant governor. And these guys, I mean, they start to implement policies under Jerry Brown to change this state forever. That's why I think it's fascinating that, and this I don't know what the 2020 here. Let's look at 2020. Let's look at California in 2020. It's California. All right, look at this. Oh my God, this is California. Joe Biden got 11 million votes in California compared to Trump's 6 million. That's 5 million in one state, 5 million more. And so what I was getting ready to say is that in the 2020 census, California ends up losing 2 congressional districts. You know how many people have to move out of your state for you to lose a congressional district? And California lost 2. So Joe Biden in in 2020 got 5 million more votes in one state, in the state of California alone. So you see why we don't care about the popular vote and why we shouldn't care about the popular vote? They have changed this state so much with the open borders. I mean, they control the election, and they're Bolsheviks, absolutely Bolsheviks. They control the entire state legislature. They have complete control over the state of California, the Democratic Party. We honestly, I'm being honest with you. They need to bring in international election watchers to come and supervise our elections in this state. That's how bad the elections are in the state of California. You want the state of California to be deciding the president of the United States for the entire country? But a lot of people want that. A lot of people, 61%, want to get rid of the Electoral College. I guarantee you that this number is higher now. This is in 2020. When's this one? 2023. This was just last year. Majority of Americans continue to want to get rid of the Electoral College. So people, that's what they want. They want majority rule. I think that's very important for you to understand. Now, let's get to this podcast. I want to talk a little bit. This is a podcast called Native Land Podcast. It's with Angela Rye. She's a Democrat contributor and activist. Tiffany Cross used to have a show on MSNBC. And then Andrew Gillum. And Andrew Gillum ran for governor in Florida. You remember what happened to Andrew Gillum? He was caught in this hotel room with all the pills and everything. And you remember what happened to him? People don't really even understand how close this guy came to being the current governor of Florida. That election was so close that this guy was almost your governor instead of DeSantis, who you have now. This guy almost won the election. So that's who he is. It's who Andrew Gillum is, Tiffany Cross, and then Angela Ray. And they do this podcast that's focused on reaching a Black audience for Democrats. They're all Democrats and advocate for Democrats. And it's called Native Land Podcast. I want you to listen to a little bit of Native Land Podcast, and this is a clip. This is Andrew Gillum. Take a listen.
I'm aggrieved, and I hope everybody out there feels aggrieved by the fact that no, it wasn't a great debate for Joe Biden the other day. But y'all, one of the men on that stage at least told the truth. The other one for 90 minutes told straight lies.
So that's a lie. And that became part of, after the debate, this narrative that Joe Biden told the truth and Donald Trump lied. That's an absolute lie. It's ridiculous. This whole Trump told 30 lies and Joe Biden told 9. That all comes from CNN's Daniel Dell, who did the fact check on both of them after the debate. But I already showed you one of the fact checks that Daniel Dell did was completely specious. That wasn't true at all. There were a couple of others that he fact checked Donald Trump on that were not true at all. He fact checked Donald Trump and said that Donald Trump said that a governor of Virginia said that they would let a baby be born and then just put it on the table and let it die. Is what, paraphrasing what Trump said, talking about the governor of Virginia who actually said that. There's videotape of that governor saying that, and Daniel Dell fact checked on Trump on that and said that that's a lie. He also fact checked Trump, saying that he misrepresented his statements after the Charlottesville riot. No, that's a lie. I mean, Donald Trump's statements were very clear after the Charlottesville riot. When Joe Biden in the debate said that Donald Trump had called Nazis fine people, Joe Biden was the one that was lying. Joe Biden said that no servicemen died in action under his watch. Joe Biden said that, what are some of the other lies that Joe Biden, some whoppers that he told? That's a whopper right there. Think about if you were one of the 16 Gold Star families that lost a service member under Joe Biden, and that he said that he lost none. And this guy saying that one of them lied and one of them told the truth, that's a complete fabrication, but it became the narrative after the debate.
I'm aggrieved, and I hope everybody out there feels aggrieved by the fact that, no, it wasn't a great debate for Joe Biden the other day. But y'all, one of the men on that stage at least told the truth. The other one for 90 minutes told straight lies, period. Enough said. And if nothing else motivates us, let the idea that Donald Trump can choose to go after any one of us and prosecute us and never, ever have to answer for why it is that he started a prosecution against us. And some people say, well, you don't lose your constitutional rights. You can still fight it in court. Well, guess what? Try to remake your life after you've been drugged through the damn gutter. Defending yourself against the government of the United States of America, because that's the seal that the man carries by his name when he's president. It is.
So it's hilarious that he's saying this. He's saying that Donald Trump, when he becomes president, that he can prosecute because they're talking about the Supreme Court immunity ruling, that Donald Trump can prosecute us if he becomes president without any oversight, that he can do it without it. Just, I mean, that's another false narrative, that after the immunity ruling that the executive is a king now. No, there's absolute oversight. If Congress wants to, they can always impeach the president if he's doing something that is abusing his power. They can impeach him and throw him out of office. Absolutely. But the irony of these guys saying this, and Angela Ray, like, they're talking about Trump prosecuting using prosecutorial lawfare against people when the same Supreme Court ruling protects your boy Barack Obama, who didn't prosecute people, didn't even allow them their 6 Americans, that he didn't even allow them their civil rights and their right to a fair trial. He killed them. He droned them without even prosecuting them. And that same Supreme Court ruling that you're saying makes Donald Trump a king and allows him to prosecute people without any justification, that protects Barack Obama, who droned and killed 6 Americans, one of them a 14-year-old boy, without any due process at all. And that's the irony of what these guys are saying. All right, I have one more clip here, and I'm going to show you again. Here's Andrew Gillum talking about the majority versus the minority. He doesn't understand our system, and he hates our system. And these people hate our system. They don't like the Electoral College. They don't like the bicameral legislature. They don't like the minority having a voice. They want the majority to rule. They want direct democracy, and that is not what our country was founded on. As a matter of fact, the founders of this country resented direct democracy.
That's real. And Angela, and to Tiff, to your point around moving forward and what folks can do, particularly around this issue of the courts. One, I just got to underscore, you can't separate the courts from the presidency. The president makes those appointments to the federal judiciary, and those are confirmed or not by the United States Senate. So to the point of the U.S. Senate, the president by himself can't get the kind of sweeping change that we want to see. It matters that we compete for and we work for candidates who we're supportive of in these U.S. Senate contests. And just to give you some information, I think it's 15 of the last 18 appointments to the United States Supreme Court have been Republican appointees. 15 of the last 18 have been Republican presidential appointees that have been confirmed to the high court, even though Democrats, progressive liberals, whatever you want to call it, represent 40 million more residents of the United States in the U.S. Senate.
Listen to him.
So how do we get here? We have a system that is disproportionately disempowering states that are more diverse, states where black folks and brown folks are living, paying their taxes without the kind of equitable representation that we deserve and that we need in Washington.
What's he talking
and
about,
the
people?
fallout from that is that they're able to make last stands like what we've seen happen at the Supreme Court and even worse in other decisions because they're unchecked. Mitch McConnell can steal a seat and never have to pay the consequence for what that's like. And so let's presume we get the White House, hold the Senate, and get the House. Democrats, my suggestion, and this has come forth through other people's voices as well.
Expand the court.
Need to enlarge the United States Supreme Court.
Expand the court. Because these people are Bolsheviks. Now listen to what he says. He says that, 13 out of 15 of the last Supreme Court appointees were appointed by conservatives. And we represent 40% more of the population, that we have more people, that we should have more members on the Supreme Court. No, it doesn't work that way, buddy. Nobody told Ruth Bader Ginsburg to stick around until her last days. I mean, it doesn't matter how much of the population you has that's how you appoint people on the court. That doesn't have anything to do with our system of government. But listen to what he's saying. He is downing our system of government. He is downing our republic because they want direct democracy. They want they say that we have the numbers, so we should have the power. That's what they believe. That's why they want to get rid of the Electoral College. That's why. That's why they want to get rid of the bicameral legislature where every state has 2 senators. They want California because California has more population. And a lot of that, the reason that California has more population is because California allows anyone to come over their border. They have complete open borders with Mexico here in California. Gavin Newsom and the Democrats believe in open borders, and they have allowed anyone to come into the state of California and access everything. And quite frankly, a lot of them are voting. So that's the dynamic that has changed, that Littman is talking about here, why California automatically is going to give Democrats 5 to 6 million votes in every election, and it's going to be impossible for Republicans to ever win the popular vote again. I have another clip. Where's that other clip here? I want to play the one of. Here we go. This is Joy Reid.
We both talk a lot about democracy on our shows, a lot. But I think somebody said to me at a talk that I did recently, you should explain what that means. And I was like, that's a really good point. Because it's just a word that we say a lot that I don't think people necessarily know what that means. Demos, the people. It means the people get to decide. Well, how are the people deciding when 40% of Americans vote in a primary and then everyone is stuck, you know what I mean? And then everyone's stuck with whoever that 40% choose in the general, and then like 60% vote in the general.
So listen to what this woman is saying. I think it's very interesting. So she's saying that this is not a democracy where the people are deciding, because in our primaries system, only 40% of the people vote. Only 40% of the people voted in this past primary. Yeah, you guys rigged the primary. You wouldn't allow anyone else to run. You refused to have debates, and that's why you're in trouble right now, because you guys didn't have a primary. And now you're mad and you're saying that it's not representative of democracy because the Democratic Party refused to have a primary and refused to allow them to pick the candidate that they wanted. I mean, you go back to 2020 as well. Everybody wanted Bernie Sanders. All the Democrats wanted Bernie Sanders, and Bernie Sanders won the first 2 primaries. He won the Iowa caucuses and he won the New Hampshire. Barack Obama gets on the phone with Amy Klobuchar and Pete Buttigieg and tell them, you guys got to drop out and put your weight behind Joe Biden so Bernie Sanders doesn't get the nomination. That's what they did. They rigged the primary in 2020. So that's how you got Joe Biden now. And then again this year, 2024, they rigged the primary and they wouldn't let people vote for anyone else. They wouldn't let Kennedy run as a Democrat. They're talking about democracy. And this woman is sitting here lamenting democracy and saying that people don't vote. So it's not a real democracy because only 40%. Yeah, you wouldn't let people vote for who they wanted to. You only gave them one choice. So of course only 40% showed up.
I don't think people necessarily know what that means. Demos, the people. It means the people get to decide. Well, how are the people deciding when 40% of Americans vote in a primary and then everyone is stuck, you know what I mean? And then everyone's stuck with whoever that
stuck with Joe Biden.
Choose in the general.
Stuck with Joe Biden.
60% vote in the general. Well, that means that Demos did not decide that.
No, Demos didn't start. Demos didn't decide that.
Low participatory democracy right now. And so what we're seeing is a disconnect between people and power. Where a small number of people
so
really
obtuse. I mean, it's just this woman, I swear, when you listen to this, she is so clueless.
A very low participatory democracy right now. And so what we're seeing is a disconnect between people and power, where a small number of people have really gotten good at finding ways to exercise minority rule. And
the
power,
oligarchy. That's
and where the majority of people have become demoralized. And so you're seeing very low voter turnout in places like Louisiana, in places like Florida.
Wow. Just completely. Yes. People are, because you guys are rigging it. You rig it. The Democrats rigged it for Hillary Clinton in 2016. They rigged it for Joe Biden in 2020. And then they rigged it again in 2024, didn't let anyone else run. And she's talking about people being demoralized in the system and a few people making the decision. She works for MSNBC. Whose side does she think that she's on? Does she think that she's on the side of Demos? This is ridiculous. It's crazy, the world we're living in right now. It's crazy. So Joe Biden now is on the campaign trail. He's doing this softball interview with Stephanopoulos tonight. He was in Wisconsin earlier today with a small crowd reading off a teleprompter. And he's trying to assure everyone that he can do it, that I'm still in it, that I can make it the next 5 months to get me over the finish line. Take a listen to Joe Biden here.
Folks, I'm the sitting president of the United States of America in no small part because of you. Not a joke. In 2020, you came through for me.
Now, they actually wanted Bernie Sanders, buddy, but everybody else dropped out to clear the way for you because Obama asked them to drop out. So it's, again, he's telling these people it's mostly because of you, but mostly it was because of Obama telling everybody to drop out to clear the way for you, so Bernie Sanders couldn't win it.
Part because of you. Not a joke. In 2020, you came through for me. I'm the nominee of the Democratic Party. I'm the nominee of this party because millions of Democrats like you just voted for me in primaries all across America. You voted for me to be your nominee. No one else. You, the voters did that. And despite that some folks don't seem to care who you voted for, well, guess what? They're trying to push me out of the race. Well, let me say this as clearly as I can. I'm staying in the race.
Yeah, Joe Biden's not going anywhere, people. He's not going anywhere. And I mean, unless they do him, but he's not going anywhere. So this is the talking point that he's on right now. I want you to listen to this part, and then we're going to watch an ad where he repeats this talking point. This is the talking point. They cannot let the January 6th stuff go, even though their advisors have played the clips for you where their advisors are saying that we don't know that this is a winning message. He has a small minority of powerful people advising him that you got to stay with the January 6th stuff. The January 6th stuff is the message. Take a listen.
Trump is a convicted felon, found guilty, 34 felonies.
Listen to this guy.
Trying to hide hush money payments to a porn star. Another jury found Trump sexually assaulted a woman in a public place, and he's been fined $90 million for defaming her. $90 million. They've only been bankrupt about 20 times, but I don't know. This so-called great businessman owes over $400 million in fines after being convicted in New York State of business fraud. Already convicted. Fined $400 million. Donald Trump isn't just a convicted criminal. He's a one-man crime wave. But Trump's biggest lie of all is he had nothing to do with the insurrection of January 6th. We all saw with our own eyes. We saw he sent thousands to attack the Capitol.
He sent thousands to attack the Capitol. Listen to what he's saying. He sent thousands to attack the Capitol.
We saw he sent thousands to attack the Capitol. We saw police being attacked, the Capitol being ransacked, the mob hunting for Nancy Pelosi. Gallows.
The gallows again. The gallows.
To hang Mike Pence. Let me ask you something.
The gallows again. I already showed you the gallows. This is art. And then this is an ad that Joe Biden put out right after the debate. And it's the same message, all January 6th. And Trump is a liar and he's a convicted felon, all this stuff. None of this stuff's going to work. None of this stuff's going to take the focus away from Joe Biden. His record, his approval rating is 36%. 36%. Let me show you that. This is a latest CNN poll. I mean, this is brutal. Brutal. 36% is where they have him. This is just the June poll for last month. He's down here with Jimmy Carter. So, this is the ad that he's running, trying to, instead of telling people what he's going to do for them and running on his record, it's all about Trump. This is a losing message.
Did you see Trump last night? I mean it sincerely. The most lies told in a single debate.
And that's the most fun. That's the most hilarious part. I just got to play it because you got to hear the what he's saying. This is part of his message that he's the guy that tells the truth. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
He lied about the pandemic he botched. And then his biggest lie. He lied about how he had nothing to do with the insurrection of January 6th. We all saw with our own eyes.
We all saw with our own eyes.
To the Capitol, and I'll be there with you.
We saw police being attacked.
Why doesn't he play Trump's full statements here? We're going to walk down to the Capitol.
We're going to walk down to the Capitol, and I'll be there with you.
We saw police being attacked.
Look at the same images.
Being ransacked. He did not a single thing to stop it. Nothing. Folks, I know I'm not a young man, but I know how to do this job. I know right from wrong. I know how to tell the truth.
I know right from wrong. I know how to tell the truth. Why don't you ever tell the truth, buddy? All you do is lie. Seriously. It's all this guy. I think that is the most hilarious thing out of all of this stuff is that this guy is trying to paint himself as the truth teller, He says that his uncle was eaten by cannibals. He said that he marched for civil rights. He says that the guy had to drop out of the 1988 election because he was plagiarizing a British politician. Said that he graduated from at the top of his class. Said that he was arrested with trying to visit Nelson Mandela. I mean, the guy just lies and lies and lies, and he's the one trying to paint himself as the truth teller. I'm amazed more by that than anything. But all the January 6th imagery running on January 6th, it's a losing message, but that's what he's going for. Back to this comment. This little clip of Trump trying to tie to Trump where he doesn't play his full statements. CNN or MSNBC. Hold on.
We're going to walk down to the Capitol, and I'll be there with you.
See how he cuts him off? We're going to walk down to the Capitol, and then they show the images of the riot. NBC does that too. This is an official NBC clip from Trump's statement on January 6th at the Ellipse. This is on the official NBC website. You see their logo here. And check out how they cut off the end of what Trump says. Why are they cutting it off? Why is Joe Biden cutting off what Trump actually says in his ad and just playing a little clip? I thought y'all called this fake. What did you call this? Cheap fake. Cheap fake. I thought this was a cheap fake. Check out NBC here with the cheap fake.
Now it is up to Congress to confront this egregious assault on our democracy. And after this, we're going to walk down, and I'll be there with you. We're going to walk down. We're going to walk down anyone you want, but I think right here we're going to walk down to the Capitol, and we're going to cheer on our brave senators and congressmen and women, and we're probably not going to be cheering so much for some of them, because you'll never take back our country with weakness. You have to show strength, and you have to be strong.
And then they cut the clip. You'll never take back our country with weakness. You have to be strong, is what he says. And then NBC cuts it.
Strong.
Just cut it. Do you see why we have two different paradigms and why our media is so dishonest? They're so dishonest. And that's why that most of Americans don't trust them at all. That's why there's a vacuum with the media, with the fourth estate. And that's why podcasts are taking off right now. And people are turning to peer-to-peer sharing of information. Information is a commodity, people. And you think about information like you think about food. And all these guys are serving you is McDonald's, fast, fat, trans fat, food that's terrible for you. That's the only information that you're getting for them. But information is a commodity. And as consumers are going out and they're looking for information, healthy information, good information that is not this fast food, fatty information that they're trying to feed you. And the vacuum that these guys, the media is presenting is why people are going out and listening to podcasts and are forming themselves peer-to-peer on social media. And that's why we have two different paradigms. Why would they cut the clip right after he says that you won't take back your country with weakness? Because they don't want you to hear this part. That's why they cut it.
Demand that Congress do the right thing and only count the electors who have been lawfully slated.
Lawfully.
I know that everyone here will soon be marching over to the Capitol building to peacefully and patriotically make your voices heard. Today we will see.
So that's what they cut out. They cut out the part where he says that. That's what NBC cut out. NBC News, they cut out the part where he says that we want only the lawful electors confirmed, and we want you to go down and peacefully and patriotically make your voices heard. And that's the part of his speech that they continue to hide from you. That's the part that Joe Biden's not playing in his ad. And these people are completely dishonest. But this part that Trump says here, that we only want the electors that are lawfully slated to be counted, that is part of January 6th. So let's go back to the concession speech. And a lot of people believe that Donald Trump didn't concede. Donald Trump conceded on January 7th, the day after Congress certified the 270 electoral votes for Joe Biden. Until Joe Biden has, in Congress, both houses of Congress, certify 270 electoral votes for Joe Biden, he's not president. So everyone says that Donald Trump, he took all of these cases to court and that he lost. That yes, Donald Trump was allowed to contest the election, but after he went to court, after he tried to contest the election and all of these cases and he lost, then he had exhausted all of his legal means of contesting the election. But that's not true. That's not true. On January 6th, that is Trump's last opportunity to contest the election. Even though he lost all those court cases and everything, he still had a legal basis if he had Congress people behind him. He couldn't have done it by himself on January 6th, but if he had one member of the Senate and one member of the House of Representatives, then he had the legal basis of contesting the election on January 6th. And that's why he gave the concession speech on January 7th, is because the day after Joe Biden is confirmed, has the 270 electoral votes confirmed, that's when he becomes president. But on January 6th, that is also the opportunity for the members of Congress to contest the election. And that is what Nancy Pelosi wanted to prevent. She wanted to prevent the Senate and the House, a member of the Senate and a member of the House, from contesting the election. This is a clip of Van Jones, and he gives this speech before the 2020 election. He's a lawyer. I think he went to Harvard as well. And he explains our republic and our system and the legal basis to contest the election. He's warning about it before the 2020, before January 6, 2021. I want you to listen to Van Jones.
What does it mean?
So what he's talking about, it could happen in 2020 or some other year. Yeah, it could have happened before 2020. The law that he's talking about is the 1887 Electoral Count Act. So this has been the law since 1887, Van Jones. It's not just in 2020 that this became law. It's been a law since 1887 that all those things are true, that a president can lose the popular vote, lose the Electoral College, and go to Congress on January 6th and still get sworn in. Yes, that's our republic. You may not like it, especially if you believe in direct democracy. You're not going to like that, but that's our country. That's America. That's their system. Sorry, you Bolshevik. But the funny thing about this is that Democrats, they know this is our system because they've used it before. They understand what the 1887 Electoral Count Law says. And they understand how you still have an opportunity to object to states' electoral votes until they get 270. When they show up on January 6th, after the new Congress is sworn in, they go in alphabetical order. Alabama, Arizona, alphabetical order, and you have to certify every single state's electoral votes. And if you have a member of the Senate and a member of the House of Representatives join, this is the 1887 electoral count vote. That's all it took, was a member of the Senate and a member of the House to join one another to object to any of those states' electoral votes. Then you break for debate, and then you have to vote separately in each one of those chambers to certify those electoral votes after debate. And they understand this. They understood it in 2000. Take a look at this clip.
I must object because of the overwhelming evidence of official misconduct, deliberate fraud, and an attempt to suppress voter turnout.
The chair must remind members that
So this is a Democrat, and he's objecting to the certification of the electors in the 2000 election. Now, this is after the Florida recount. This is after Bush v. Gore. This is January 6, 2001. And they are still objecting. Now, if January 6th is only ceremonial and you're only there to count votes and there's no opportunity to object to electors and to kick out electors, then why are Democrats objecting on January 6th? They should just count the votes and go home.
The chair must remind members that under Section 18 of Title III.
Mr. Vice President, there are gross violations of the Voting Rights Act from Florida.
The
and I object, and it is not signed by a senator.
Listen, it's not signed. It's not signed by a senator. She knows she needs a senator. That's the difference in 2000. People were saying in the January 6th commission trial, well, if Mike Pence could just throw out the election and willy-nilly, then why didn't Al Gore do it and make himself president? Because Al Gore didn't have a senator join a member of the House. There were only members of the House objecting. That's why Al Gore couldn't do that.
Mr. Jackson, arise.
Well, Mr. President, I am objecting to the idea that votes in Florida were not counted. And it's a sad day in America, Mr. President, when we can't find a senator to sign
the
these
gentleman
objections.
Gentleman will suspend.
Won't sign objections, President.
And walking out, this is January 6th, 2001, in protest because they can't get a senator.
This certificate of the
The whole number of the electors appointed to vote for President of the United States is 538, of which a majority is 270.
So they're complaining because they couldn't get a senator. Now, what these House members don't know, because Barbara Boxer lets it out of the bag in 2004, which I'm getting ready to show you, but Al Gore had asked the senators, all the Democratic senators, not to join any of the members of the House. So he personally went to all the Democratic senators and asked them not to join a member of the House. So that's why a senator didn't join a member of the House in 2000. We're going to jump ahead to 2016. This is Joe Biden as vice president presiding over January 6th. Again, the Democrats seem to understand the 1887 Electoral Count Act, because it's not just ceremonial on January 6th. They're there to object to the electors. They just don't have a senator to join them. Take a listen.
Thank you, Mr. President. I object to a certificate from the state of North Carolina based on violations of the Voting Rights Act.
There is no debate in the joint session. The chair has previously ruled a signature from a senator is required. Is there a signature from a senator?
There's a signature from the House of Representatives.
No senator.
Objection cannot be received.
Do you have a senator? Do you have a senator? Do you have a senator? The objection cannot be. It cannot be presented. There's no debate without a signature from a senator. And none of them had a signature from a senator in 2016. But each one of these members of the House of Representatives, understanding that it was not just ceremonial on January 6th, that this was their opportunity to object to the electors, then they are pleading for a senator to join them. Take a listen.
With
the
my
objection cannot be received.
But the Russian intrusion,
The clerk will continue to call the roll.
I wish to ask, is there one United States senator who will join me in this letter
There is
of
no
objection?
debate.
No debate.
There is no
debate. And no senator. No senator would join them in 2016. They were objecting in 2000. No senator would join them. They were objecting in 2016. No senator would join them. In 2004, something interesting happened in 2004 because, again, the narrative is that January 6th would have never happened if Donald Trump would have just conceded before January 6th. If Donald Trump would have just conceded, all those people would not have been protesting the election and everything, just Donald Trump concedes and everything goes away. Well, after the 2004 election in November, the morning after the election, they hadn't even finished counting votes. They were still counting votes when this skull and bones clown conceded to his fraternity brother, the other skull and bones clown, George Bush. The morning after the election, this guy concedes the election.
Good conversation. And we talked about the danger of division in our country and the desperate need for unity, for finding the common ground, coming together.
All right, so he conceded the day after the election. 2 months later, on January 6th, this is the first time in 100 years that a senator joins a member of the House of Representatives to object to a state's electoral votes. And Barbara Boxer of California joins a member of the House of Representatives in 2004 for the first time in 100 years to object to Ohio's electoral votes. Take a listen to Barbara Boxer.
Why did voters in Ohio wait hours in the rain to vote? Why were voters at Kenyon College, for example, made to wait in line until 4 a.m. to vote? Because there were only 2 machines for 1,300 voters when they needed 13. Excuse me. Why did voters in poor and predominantly African American communities have disproportionately long waits? Why in Franklin County did election officials use only 2,798 machines when they needed 5,000?
So in 2004, they seemed to understand the Electoral Count Act. It wasn't a threat to democracy for them to object to electoral votes in 2004. They ended up voting to certify Ohio's electoral votes. But if they didn't, say, for example, so in 2020, in January 6, 2021, like I was explaining in the last podcast, the Senate was 50-50, 50 Democrats and 50 Republicans, which is, it's ridiculous for Mike Pence to say that his role was only ceremonial, especially in that scenario. Because if the riot wouldn't have happened, and this is what listen to what Nancy Pelosi says. This is what she's saying now. I want you to listen to this woman.
And by the way, let's just go back to January 6th. Let's go back to January 6th, because this is one of the charges against the president. The president goes on TV and says, I planned my own assassination. No, I didn't. He did.
I planned my own assassination. What would be my motive for allowing the riot to happen? You think I'm going to plan my own assassination? That's what she's saying. She's saying, well, what would be my motivation for allowing the riot to happen? Her motivation for allowing the riot to happen is because she didn't want a senator, which and Republicans had a senator, Ted Cruz, joined a member of the House to object to Arizona, which was the second state counted. And that's exactly when the riot happened, immediately when they broke for debate. That's what Nancy Pelosi was trying to prevent. No, you weren't planning your own assassination. You were trying to prevent the debate and the objection of the electoral votes. And that was Trump's final opportunity to turn this election. And then if they would have been able to get rid of the electoral votes in Arizona or other states, it would have gone to the House of Representatives. And like Van Jones says, the House of Representatives would have made Trump the president of the United States, because that's our system. That's our republic. So since then, they have changed the law. Senators reached deal to clarify the 1887 law at the center of the January 6th attempt to overturn the election. They have changed the law after 2020, but since 1887, that was the law, and the Democrats used it many times, and it was a legal process for Trump. It was his last opportunity, his last legal process to challenge the election. And then after that was over, he says that that's our last legal opportunity. I failed all the legal challenges, including January 6th and the objection of the electors. And now it's time to transition. I concede.
And calm restored. We must get on with the business of America. My campaign vigorously pursued every legal avenue to contest the election results. My only goal was to ensure the integrity of the vote. In so doing, I was fighting to defend American democracy. I continue to strongly believe that we must reform our election laws to verify the identity and eligibility of all voters and to ensure faith and confidence in all future elections.
Well, they have reformed our election laws, Trump. They changed the 1887 law so you can't contest the elections anymore. Now, I don't know these aren't the changes you're talking about, but they have changed the electoral laws, and I don't know if this adds any more confidence in our elections. But anyway, that's the podcast, folks. I hope you enjoyed it. I will be back on Monday. And on Monday, we're going to talk about the violence, more political violence. We're going to talk about 2020. I hope you guys have a great weekend.